Hi, welcome back, Andy Golf Mad Dad. So this is part 2 of my stats breakdown series. The previous episode, we went through the putting stats. Today, it's all about the scoring zone from 150 yards and in, comparing stats with PGA Tour Pro against scratch, against 15 handicappers, against high handicappers. So 2 reasons for these stats. Number 1, it can definitely help your game on the course where we losing shots and where we could be gaining shots. And 2, if you're one who beats yourself up on the golf course, gets down when you're not stiffing that pin from 100, 120 yards. When we dive into the stats, you might change your outlook and start enjoying the game a lot more. So let's dive into the stats, guys. Okay, so the 3 stats I'm going to dive into today is greens hit from certain distances, hole proximity, and scoring average from approach distances. So let's get into stat number 1. Okay, so stat 1, greens in regulation from certain distances. I'm going to look at 150 yards, 125, 100, 75 yards. So starting here, 150 yards, I've got the middle of the green set actually at 145. For me, that's on my limit of my pitching wedge. You see my videos, I do have a little bit more speed than most, but 145. First one to this pin. Take that. Bang on the number. So 145 yards. That's where I forget my little draw. So I'll take that for the first one. Definitely easier indoors. Perfect lie. No wind. But let's dive into the stats for 150 yards. You might be surprised, guys. Okay, into the stats for 150 yards. Gonna pop up the table somewhere here. I've got it on my phone so I read it off properly. So these are approximate stats. So for 150 yards, PGA Tour Pro are hitting the green 65% of the time. Scratch golfers 50%, 15 handicappers 30%, 28 handicappers only 15% of the time. So PGA Tour Pros from 150 yards only hitting the green 65% of the time. Let that sink in, guys, and we'll move on to 125. Okay, so the greens move to 100 yards, bang in the middle. This is definitely green light, where we all think we should be stiffing the pin, getting it within 10 foot. If we don't, we get disappointed on ourselves, but the stats, which we'll go through, might open your eyes a little bit. So for me, I can hit a few numbers on here, but I use a little wedge matrix system. I have 3 distances for every wedge in my bag, which I'll go through a little bit in this video, but a more detailed video in the next couple of weeks. So for me, 105 yards is a little grip down 54, and I call it a grip down Tommy for my 3rd distance. That goes 95. So 100 yards, I'm actually in between. So I'm just going to do a little grip down, just take a little bit off that to try and hit the 100 number. So good strike, actually carried 103 yards. So I was only 3 yards off what I was trying to hit, but let's get into those stats. Okay, so let's get into those stats for 125, 100 yards. So we'll pop the table up again here. So for 125 yards, PGA Tour Pro are hitting 75% of the greens. Scratch golfer jumps up to 60%, 15 handicap at 40%, and the higher handicap at 125 yards is only hitting 20%, so 1 in 5 greens from 125 yards. If we move on to the 100 number, which is a bit of a magic number, I know for a lot of you down there who uses the sand wedge, gap wedge, that's probably your flat out full number, and it's a nice round number. So let's check out the 100 yard stats. So the PGA Tour Pros are hitting the green 85% of the times. Scratch golfers 70% of the time, so still only 7 out of 10 greens from 100 yards. 15 handicappers 50% of the time, and high handicappers are still only hitting the green from 100 yards 30% of the time. And if we dive into stats, what I've got here, approximate stats for 75 yards, these might open your eyes up even more so. So PGA Tour Pros from 75 yards are hitting it 90% plus of the time. Scratch golfer still only 80%, so we're still missing 2 out of 10 greens as a scratch golfer. 15 handicapper 60% of the time, and a high handicapper from 75 yards only 40% of the time. So if you've been watching my channel for a couple of years, you know I love a bit of data. My brain works very analytically, so a couple of things to take from those stats, one for your own game, is the pros, the scratch golfers, are not hitting every single green. They're not taking the pins out all the time. So a couple of things from their shows: we've got to get better from that scoring zone from 150 yards in. If we start hitting a few more greens in regulation, the scores are going to come down a little bit better. And secondly, just to not get beat up on yourself. And I'll play with a few people that if they're not shooting the pins out from 100 yards, 125 yards, or even if they just missed the green, beating themselves up, they think they should be taking every single pin down, when the stats show that even the pros aren't doing it. But what these stats can help with also is how we can improve our game. Just shows it's important to know our carry numbers. So if you get access to somewhere like here at Leisure Pod, even just one session, try and get a few basic carry numbers. And then with your on-course strategy, how we can bring the scores is understanding dispersion with these numbers. So it's not just left and right numbers, it's actually the front and back. So if you've got a carry of your sandwich at 100 yards, if you hit it pure, the drop off might be 85, 90 yards. Or if you get a low spin, it's going to go a little bit further. But also it's not just a straight front and back. So with the dispersion, you might not have thought about this before, but it's not just a simple front and back number. If we actually think about it, and I'll pop up a little diagram on here. So for the right-handed golfer, our dispersion is actually going to look like an oval shape through from there, where the dispersion, if we get steep, we draw the ball, it's going to come out low spin. Our actual misses are going to be long and left. Whereas if we open the face, get that little slice, it's going to come up short. Obviously reverse for the left-hand golfers. So for this 100-yard shot, if I come out of the shot, if I get the slice shot, it's not going to go the distance, but I'm going to miss this front right. Comes out weak, we're going to miss short right. And then the steep pulley one. We get the ball hooking. It's going to miss long and left. So this is where if we can start understanding dispersion, know our carry numbers of both front and back, that's when we're on course strategy. We shouldn't be taking on pins. Pin is at the left or the right hand side of the green. We shouldn't be taking the pins out from any of these distances. The best strategy is to aim for the middle of the green, but understand those dispersion numbers. So if you've got trouble short and right, then take a little bit more club, play to the back green yardage. And again, if you've got trouble long and left, you want to take a little bit if the miss is short and right. So it's understanding where the misses are, because from the stats, it shows that from scratch golfers, mid-handicappers, we're missing a lot more greens than we think we should be. So we have to learn how to miss properly, miss on the right side, give us a better chance of getting up and down. So get in the comments below, do those stats surprise you? Do you think the tour pros or the scratch players are hitting more greens? Yes, I understand PGA Tour pros, their pins are more tucked away, but I've been following a lot of the decade golf, and I'm going to go down that route in more of my stats in a new series I'm starting, Holding Scratch at 46, where I'm really going to dive into stats and on-course strategy. And a lot of the Scott Fawcett, the decade, is not firing at pins. It's just playing smart golf, middle of the green. Don't force the birdies. If we're hitting the greens, more greens in regulation, scores are going to come down. So that's greens in regulation. Let's move on to stats number 2. So let's move on to hole proximity. So 125 yards, got my 50 degree. How close do you think the pros are hitting it? Ooh, take that one. So that's carried 126 yards, says 8 yards. So that's 24 foot. How does that stack up with the stats? So let's get the stats popped up here again. Let's start with 125 yards as I just hit that shot. So it says there 8 yards, I was 24 foot away. How does that stack up? So for 125 yards for PGA Tour, they're getting approximate average of 20 feet. Scratch golfers, 25 foot, so I was just inside that threshold average for scratch. 15 handicap, 40 foot. 28 handicapper, 55 foot away, so nearly 20 yards on average, which we'll discuss how important this is in a minute. So if we move up to the 150 yards, PGA Tour Pro, 25 foot. Scratch, 30 foot. 15 handicap, 46 foot, 45, sorry. 28 handicap, 60 foot plus. So well over 20 yards from 150 yards. So we move to the magic 100 yards where we think we should be shooting the lights out, getting inside 10 foot. Let's check the stats. So 100 yards, PGA Tour Pro is averaging 17 feet from 100 yards. Scratch golfers, 22 foot, so 7 yards. 15 handicapper, 35 foot. And for you mid to high handicappers, it's still 15 foot, so over 15 yards from 100 yards. So if we move to 75 yards, PGA Tour Pro, 15 foot. They're definitely getting closer there now. Scratch golfers, 20 foot, so still 7 yards from 75 yards. 15 handicappers, 30 foot. And from 75 yards, high handicappers are still averaging around 45 foot. So 15 yards miss from 75 yards. So again, a few things to take away from these stats. One is that from this scoring zone, the tour pros, the scratch players are not taking the pins out, which the stats back up again. And again, if you look at the decade, Scott Fawcett stuff, he prioritizes, which we'll go through over scoring average, just not making silly mistakes from 100 to 150 yards. One of Tiger's golden 5 rules. And with these stats as well, with the proximity to the hole, this is what links into before with knowing your numbers and the dispersion. And this is where if you see a pin slightly on the left or the right, should never be going for it. So if you take, for example, the 100 yards, your magic number, on average, we're missing the hole by 35 foot. This could be left and it could be right. So it's around 12 yards. So if you're going for a pin that is 10 yards on, from the left, we missed that, you've missed the green, and vice versa. So give yourself that margin. This is where the scores can really come down. You've got to drop the ego, think we don't have to be taking on every left, right, front, back pin. Just aim for that middle of the green. And with these dispersion numbers, the whole proximity, this is where we're going to take from the fairway or the rough from 100, 125 yards. We're going to hopefully eliminate the double bogey. We're going to try and not make as many bogeys. A lot of you still are making bogey from these so-called scoring zone numbers. So the whole proximity shows we just got to get better. When we're at the driving range, don't go smashing driver all the time. Work on this scoring zone, but then just play smarter golf. Aim for the middle of the green. Allow for that natural dispersion, which is going to happen. We're going to hit more greens. The scores are going to come down. Right, let's move on to the third and final stat. So the third stat is scoring average from approach distance, which again, if you've not seen the stats before, might open your eyes that to think from 100 yards, 125 yards, you should be making birdie or you should be chasing birdies, but let me show you the stats. So scoring average, so how many shots it takes to get down into the hole from certain yardages. Let's pop up the data again. So from 150 yards, poor scoring average is 3 shots, scratch 3.1, 15 handicappers 3.5, and the high handicapper is averaging 4 shots, so making at least bogey or worse from 150 yards. So 125 yards, scoring average for the Tour Pro only drops to 2.9, so as you can see, they're not making many birdies from that distance. Scratch golfers averaging 3 strokes. 15 handicappers still at 3.4 strokes, so pushing towards bogey more times than not. And high handicappers averaging still 3.9 shots from 125 yards. And if we move to that 100-yard magic number where we think the pros are hitting birdies, we should be giving ourselves good chances of birdie. But let's have a look at the stats. 100 yards, PGA Tour Pro are only averaging 2.8 shots from 100. Scratch players 2.9. 15 handicap 3.3. and 28 approximate handicap are still averaging 3.8 shots from 100 yards. So again, what can the stats show us from there? One, we've just got to get better at understanding our numbers, our dispersion numbers, and just get better at on-course strategy. As we've mentioned before, not keep going over it. Aim for the middle of the green. Those scoring averages are going to come down. Again, decades, Scott Fawcett, Lou Stagner, lots of data driven out there with stroke gains. Even for me, I'm trying to stay around scratch level golf. Over the past week, I've played a couple of rounds here at Tapton where it's a short course, but I've really used the strategy of just hitting middle of the green, not forcing it. I actually shot 5 under yesterday. I shot 4 under a few days before that, just by playing simple, boring strategy golf. So again, it just shows, just get better at the numbers, understand the dispersion, and let's just get better at the course strategy. Stop firing at those pins, just forget those pins. Birdies, they're not very often anyway that they happen, but don't force them, they will just naturally come. You'd play a lot better golf if there was no pins on the actual green. We just aim for the middle of the green, and naturally with the dispersion, some are going to go left, some are going to go right. So just hit that middle of the green, and that scoring average will come down as well. Okay, so Stat Attack episode 2 done. If you found it useful, if you want to hit that subscribe button, it'd be a big help to the channel. Also hit that like video if you did find it useful. Again, if you like me, you like a bit of data, it really does open your eyes. It really does help you just enjoy the game a lot more, not get frustrated. I definitely don't get frustrated out on the golf course. The stats back it up as well. So I think the keys for this is let's just get better in this scoring zone, be better on-course strategy, get good at a couple of numbers just so you know your basic carry numbers. If you've got your sand wedge, your pitching wedge, just understand some carry numbers, understand that dispersion. We're going to hit more greens in regulation. Hole proximity is going to get a little bit better, which ties into the putting video, which I did on the first episode, which the stats show. We're going to free putt a lot more as a mid to high handicapper from 20, 30, 40 foot. So the closer we can get to this hole, we're going to just bring in that score average down. So it all links in. Greens in regulation, hole proximity, score average from distance is going to get better. Then the putting stats, the closer we are to the hole, are going to get better. It all ties in if we just play that smarter golf. As I mentioned earlier, I have a little wedge matrix system, which I'm going to go and do a full video in the next week or two. Like I said, you don't have to go into as much detail as this. I'm lucky I've got access here to the GC3 at Leisure Pod. So this is what I've built. I don't know if you can see on there. So they're my numbers for my wedges. As I said, for my pitching wedge, 50, 54, just on my 60 degree actually this morning. I've got my 3 stock yardages. And then I am a Dan Greavy disciple. I've been following his stuff for the past 2 years, really implemented it into my game. So I use a pitching system, which again, I've done videos before, but I'm going to go into detail with this matrix. So my scoring zone is split into 2 types of shot. I have my pitching, which is really 35 yards to 90 yards. And then the fuller shots go from 75, 80 up to this 150 yards with the pitching wedge. So that's my 2 types of my scoring zone, and really dialing in these carry numbers, learning a pitching technique. This has definitely helped my game, and really diving into these stats really helps with my on-course management. So for holding scratch at 46, I do pride myself that my golf IQ is constantly learning. Can't switch the brain off at times, but I never want to stop learning out there and just playing smarter golf out there. So stats episode 2, scoring zone done, guys. So driving range, don't go smashing drivers all day. Get good at 150 yards in, chipping and putting. Those scores are going to come down, guys. Right, speak to you soon.